Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Garcia, and today I'm going to be building a game kind of from scratch in home games. Not really from scratch. Um, Basically, for some context of what I'm going to be building today, a few months back, or probably at this point about a year ago, we built a game called Slaps, which was apparently a version of Slapjack. I'm not really a big card game person, so I don't actually know what Slapjack is or how it works. I was told how this game worked, and I attempted to build it in home games, which I'm going to Pico de Gallo here to kind of get the version of Slaps that is old and currently in Master. That's this here. So I can go to Slaps. So basically what this game is just draw cards and see who can get the highest value. Whoever gets the highest value wins. So on the second session here, I'm just going to join so I can have two people playing. Alright, so this is person 1. My name is in the top right here. And this is person 2. My name is also in the top right. I hit new game, and I won. That's the game. I got 8. The other person had 6. Therefore, I win. At this point, it's broken. I think this broke in some refactor that we did in the past couple months. And so essentially, instead of trying to fix this, I'm just going to rewrite this, and hopefully it won't be too crazy to do that. There's been a ton of kind of under the hood changes since we built this originally, so I figure it might as well be time to do it from the beginning. Also, it's pretty simple. Like, this is basically all I want to do with it. I did a quick sketch, very very fleshed out, very deep sketch of what I want this to look like earlier. There's some kind of UI flows that I'm not really thinking up through here, but basically what I want is I want a list of players on the left to say who's the player, what score do they currently have. I want this kind of section in the middle to show the current kind of hand that everybody has. So basically I have a deck of cards, and I want everybody to draw cards and show what the card is, and then display the winner. I do not have the kind of I truly don't know how card games work, so I don't know if it's king is greater than queen versus jack or a joker. I don't know what these things are. So kind of in a simple way, I'm just going to be looking at the values. Oh, I did not mean to do that. And then this here is like a new round button. So essentially I just want to do what I just showed, which is just people draw cards, you can hit a button and kind of go from the beginning and just do it again and again and again. It's essentially rolling dice and the game telling you who won, but I figured this would be a good starting point to see kind of, or not to see, but basically just to show building a game from scratch in home games. So yeah, I guess we'll get started. Here I have just my initial processes that I'm going to run. So I have a hot swapper process runner thing that I'm going to run for the game server. I have to run the app server as well, and then we can basically just put this away. So I'm going to be doing that in the corner, and then I'm going to have Sublime, and I'm not super used to Sublime. I normally use Vim because I try to impress everybody around me for that, but this is kind of more practical, so I'm using Sublime today. So this is my starting point. You'll notice this bezel is different. Kind of looks like trash in 1080p and kind of squished up like this, but I'm not concerned about that right now. Calling this Slappers because I already have Slaps, and this is basically Slaps 2. So yeah, you see here we have this blue screen, nothing really going on. And to kind of just walk through all this stuff, so I have kind of my core imports, which are Squish.js, which is kind of the engine and game tree rendering stuff. If you want more detail on that, you can read our wiki, or you can look at kind of other videos that we have, but I'm not going to go too into that right now. Essentially, that's our game engine stuff. Deck is a common deck utility thing that we have, which just kind of creates a 52 card deck of cards with suit, value, and name, I believe, are the 3 properties of each card. And then colors is just a little kind of convenience for me to say colors instead of colors. Did not mean to do that. Instead of colors.colors. So yeah, we have metadata here, which I don't have the dashboard running here. I kind of have a modified version of the game server, if you look right here, because I have not yet modified the dashboard to kind of update for the new way of creating game nodes. So you'll see here I have the parameters or the arguments towards or for game node to be keys and values. So coordinates 2D is this, shape type is this, etc. And it's the same way in the home games root. You can see kind of what text has these keys and values here. Text is this, X is this, Y is this. Whereas the old version is this. It's kind of positional arguments, and there's no keys, and you don't know how to, or it's not clear what you're actually passing to the constructors of these classes. So because I haven't updated any of that stuff, I'm just running, kind of the game itself without the dashboard. So these kinds of things don't really matter, or I guess this does, the aspect ratio does. So if I wanted to say, for example, this is a 4x3 game, I can do this, and now it's a 4x3 game, but I want 16:9, so I'm just going to keep that there. And then I have this base. So the way that home games works, so the squish stuff works, is that I essentially have a tree of game nodes that I'm building. And I kind of need to have a root node of what my game is, and I kind of create children of that root underneath it, and that's kind of what creates the state of my game. So currently I just have this base. It's a polygon. It takes 100% of the width, 100% of the height, and it starts at 0, 0. So basically starting from this point here, I want it to take up the entirety of the screen, and I want it to be blue. Right? And that's all that is. If I wanted it to be green, that is not what I wanted to do. I'm going to minimize that. Anyway, now this is green. So what I want to do in this first kind of part of this video, you'll see I have my notes here. I just want to have the player list and the new round button, and maybe I'll have the kind of section for this stuff, but then in the second video I'll kind of actually make the game work. And then in the third part, if there's any significant cleanup that I need to do, I'll do a third part. If not, I'll just leave it at 2 parts. I don't actually know how long this is going to take me, but hopefully not very long. So yeah, I guess to get started, I'm just going to create some kind of skeleton of what I want things to be. I essentially want this to be maybe, 15% of the screen, the player list. I want the new round button section to take up maybe 10% of the screen. And so if we do some math, that leaves 75% of the width for this thing, but I kind of want to have some space between stuff. So let's just say this takes up 60%. The actual card game stuff. So didn't mean to open that. Let's just kind of create these skeleton squares to see what that looks like. Player list section is a game node dot shape, and the coordinates, I want it to be a rectangle. So rectangle from, maybe 5% of the width, and then 20% of the height. I want it to take up 15% of the width and 60% of the height. We'll just see what that looks like. I have no actual idea what that would look like. Shape type. I cannot type today. Polygon, and then the fill, just make it ugly colors, so colors red, to make it super obvious that it's there. And at the moment I've just instantiated it. So one thing I didn't mention before, so I said this is the base, right? This green square that I was showing before. Home Games knows that's the root of your game with this function here, or this method, I suppose, on your class, called getRoot. And I'm just saying the base of my game is this dot base. And Home Games will kind of iterate through the tree and render everything onto the client screens, kind of an in-order traversal of the tree to render everything. So at this point I have my base, but I haven't added my player list section. So if I refresh, nothing's different. But if I do this dot base dot add child, this dot player list section, at this point I should see an ugly red square. Yeah, that looks about right. Should probably take up a little bit more of the height and a little bit more of the width. So let's say it is 20 and this is 70. does that look like? Okay, I can probably put some sort of text in there, so that seems okay. I'm going to now declare the new round. I don't know if I like that. So essentially what I want on this right side here is just a thing that shows a new round button after the round has completed, or basically at the start of the game, once you kind of initialize, once you have 2 or more people in here, you should be able to click the new round button. So let's just say this new round button section. I don't know if that's actually what I want it to be, but at the moment that's how I'm thinking of it. So that's what I'm going to call it. Coordinates 2D, shape utils. So shape utils.rectangle, all this is doing, this is just kind of a convenience for me to give I believe it's a 2D array. It's a 2D array of values. So it's basically converting this 5, 20, 20, 70 to kind of XY coordinates to say go from this point to this point to this point to this, kind of like that in a kind of a helper type way. We can support multiple polygons, not just rectangles, but at the moment we kind of just do everything with rectangles because it's easier. So that's kind of just what I'm doing right here. So shape utils.rectangle, and I want this to start at the 85 X value. I want it to be aligned with this red box here, so I'm going to start it at 20 down. I only want this to be 10% of the width because it's just a button, not really anything like important that I need to put in there for anybody to read. And I don't know how big it should be. Let's just say starting at 20, I want it to be kind of centered, so that would mean it would have to end at 80, which would mean that the value or the width would have to, or height would have to be 60. Shape type, again, shape type or shapes.polygon, and the fill is colors dot purple. Oh, and these colors are just RGBA values. So it's red, green, blue, alpha values, 0 to 255 in each of the indices of the array. So it's just an array of size 4, and that's all this purple is. We've defined purple as whatever the RGB value is for that in this colors kind of utility. And again, I have instantiated this, but I have not yet added it to my tree. So what did I just do? I'm going to use the other method, add children, say this new round button section, and it's broken. Cool. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but it's fixed. That's not super wide. I'm kind of, what the oh, I know what's happening there. Don't really need that anymore, so I don't need that. So I'm trying to just think of stylistically what I want this to look like. This should be wider, maybe not, I don't know. A button's gonna go here, I don't really care. Text is gonna go here, and then the game will kind of exist here. And in terms of player count, I need at least 2, otherwise you're just drawing a card and always winning. So that's not super fun. What I think I need is a reasonable limit on how many players can join and how many players can play this game. If we have a deck of 52 cards, I suppose we could support 52 players, but realistically I couldn't write a simple UI here that can show 52 cards. Oh, I forget my face is in the bottom right, so I shouldn't take up the entire screen. So anyway, we'll figure this out, but basically I just want to use this space here for the actual cards that I display. And I'll have to do some math to kind of determine how big each card value is, or each card kind of visual representation is, as I have more players, and then I should be able to cut it off at a certain point. Don't know if I'm going to actually implement that today. I'm just trying to implement a very simple, basic version of Slapjack / Slaps, because this is not actually Slapjack. Because I don't know what Slapjack is. So, put this back in the corner. Cool. And then let's say this dot card section, game node dot shape coordinates 2D, da da da. And I want to have a little bit of a buffer space between the red and the card space, so it's not just right up on it. So we'll see what this looks like, but I'm just gonna throw out, I don't know, 30, have a little buffer of 5. So if I'm starting at 30, that'll be roughly right here. And this purple thing starts at 85, so I want it to end at 80. So this would give me 50% of this screen, basically. Oh, sorry, I forgot how this works. 20 from the top, and then I want it to take up 50% of the width, and I want it to take up 60% of the height. Shape type is shapes dot polygon fill colors dot yellow. Again, this is not the final look. Oh, right, forgot to add it to the tree. This is not the final look. I'm just adding kind of the layout for what I think this should look like. Yeah, that's pretty gross looking, but I think spatially it makes sense. I don't really know what else I need to put in here. It's pretty simple. I just need to have my list. I need to have, these are scores, just X and Y here that I was thinking. New round should just trigger a new kind of deck pulling and then a new rendering of these cards. So that seems to make sense there. There's some kind of space on the top here that I can use. Maybe I can put some ugly text or something like that. It just says slappers, you know, kind of keep it on brand. Make sure people know what they're playing. But basically, I think this on a skeletal level makes sense. What did I want to do? Okay, player list and new round button. So I have the skeleton stuff here, and now I want to actually make a some sort of data here that shows what players are in the game. So to do that, I can just add a handle new player. I think that's what this is. Let me just reference. Yeah, handle new player. So handle new player will trigger whenever a new player connects to this game session. So first, just gonna, oh, actually, one thing I forgot to mention is that console logs are currently busted with the way that my hot swap stuff works. Essentially, standard out will get eaten by the process that's running my game server. So console.logs aren't really helpful because they won't actually show on the thing. So let's just go in blind here and say that the player gets a text node when they join. So player text node is a new game node dot text, and the text is the player dot name. The name is automatically generated by Home Games itself when the player is created. On a Home Games level, there's the ability to change their name and have it persist between different game sessions, but I'm not really concerned about that stuff in this game. I just know they have a name. So the text is player.name. The X will be kind of constant since it'll always be aligned kind of within this red box here. The thing that will change will be the Y. So I'll probably have to do some sort of math here to say, you know, basically it's a function of how many players are currently in the game, and it's just some constant, which is kind of this green buffer here, plus some variable times the number of players. So if it's like, you know, I want a player name here, and I want a player name here, 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 etc. So player list section, the X is 5, so let's just say that the X is 5 here. I don't care about the math right now, so let's just say it starts at 20. The text align is centered. So this will make sure that the center of my text is at 520, which I think will actually make this show up kind of outside of the box, but I just want to make sure that's the case. Let's just say it's white text, so I can read it on this red background. And I'm going to add it as a child to this .player list section and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Let's see what I'm missing. Text, align, center, color, ID. Oh, size. That's important. So I don't know. I don't know if we have a default here in the size, but the size needs to be set. So what I'm saying right here is if the size is 1, it means that every character that is in my text will take up 1% of the width of the screen. So if I had this set to 100, I could basically have 1 character, which would take up the entirety of the screen. If I had it set to 1, I can theoretically have 100 characters to be visible on the screen. At the moment, we don't support numbers smaller than 1, so I guess that means that if you had more than 100 characters in the text that you want to display, you would have to kind of manually break it up and show it into different pieces, which is kind of gross. You could probably have some sort of better way to render that, but at the moment, this is what we have. So let me see if that fixed it. It didn't. Okay. Okay. Oh, we have an error. Oh, text info. That's what I'm missing. That does not seem correct. Text info. Okay. Let me see what's going on here. I don't know how to do things outside of this. So let me say, I'm basically just going to look at the constructor for the game node to see what's going on. Text info. What am I doing? Oh. Okay, I think I just need this to be another object. Again, the objectification stuff that I added for these parameters is pretty new, and so at the moment I'm not an expert in how these parameters are passed. So XY color, I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna cut here maybe. Whatever, I'm not gonna cut. I'm just gonna you'll watch me debug this. Unless you don't want to, in which case you can fast forward. I could have sworn this worked in a different thing. So I'm going to search home games and say, fuck. All of my other stuff is old, so it's not updated for this objectification stuff. Let me search for text info. Source games. Nope, nope, nope. Clictionary. So I'm basically just looking for usages of text info to see what I'm missing here. I think this might be a bug in my constructor here. It might be getting the wrong. It might be looking for text info when it actually doesn't need it. I don't actually know. Let me look at the game node constructor. Text. No, that looks about right. I'm going to do this and see. Okay. Add child. That's the real bug. I want to say I fixed the other thing and I just nothing updated when I in the hot loader or anything. I'm not going to use the hot loader. This has already gone off the rails. I'm not going to use the hot loader anymore just because I want to have these errors kind of clearly available. So you see here my error was text node requires text info, and I didn't change anything, and now my error is this .add child is not a function, so something's gone wrong with my hot loader. So I am just going to say add child. Yep. So this is a problem. I am saying this .add child, which I messed up. It should be this .base.add child because wait, this shouldn't be this .base.add child. It should be this .playerlist section add child player text node, and that's because I was attempting to call add child on the actual object itself here, which I don't have add child method on this class. I have add child and add children on the actual game nodes and stuff that I have, and so I was just messing up and calling the wrong thing there. Add child, and then this, no console errors, and yeah, we have some ugly unreadable text that seems to not actually say anything real, which is concerning. I don't actually know what text it's pulling there. Let's just use the hot reloader to get rid of this terminal. Maybe if I need it again, or don't want it again, I'll get rid of that. So okay, let's just see. Okay, yeah, that's text. It's just hard to read, so let me make it bigger. It's now a size 2, and that's too big, and it looks like garbage. We don't support floating point numbers here, I don't think, so kind of either stuck with too big or too small, so that's pretty great. First, I'm just going to change the text so it actually fits within the box. Ooh. Oh. What a mess. Okay, so what's happening here is I'm adding a child to the player list section every time that someone connects, but I'm never removing it, so it's just text being overlaid over and over and over again, and that is no good. So I'll have to remove this eventually, but I'm just going to clear all the children whenever someone joins, so that doesn't happen. Cool. And so I just blindly put 10 thinking that would fix it, but let me actually do some math here. So the player list section starts at 5 and it takes 20% of the thing, so that means this is 5 and this is 25, meaning if I want this center here, I need 15. So if I make x 15, then this should be centered, and it is. And actually, that for this specific randomly generated name, this is the perfect size. If I do this again, yeah, okay, now it's a little too big. So let's just make it 1 and see. I'm gonna leave it at 1 because no one will be playing on this on a screen of this size. So you'll see if I make it big, it's more readable. So I'm just gonna leave it at size 1. I'm glad we fixed that. Okay, so now we have kind of player names showing up, but this only works for one player because you'll see we have clear children every time a new player connects, meaning if I have 2 players and I have player 1 join, they'll have their text added. Then I have player 2 join, it'll clear all the children of this red square, meaning it'll clear all the text out of here, and then add theirs. So we can kind of prove that. You'll see this says ligable overcasting, whatever this says. And when I join here, and now it just says whatever those words are. Because again, it's just kind of eating whatever was there before because it's clearing out everything that was there. So we're going to have to remove this and instead say every time a player leaves, we're going to have to remove what was there before for them. So, and when handle player disconnect is called whenever a player leaves, I believe, yep. And it gives you the player ID of the player that left. So what this means is essentially we need to keep track of the text nodes that we're adding to the player list section. So if I say player joined, here's the text node, put it on the screen, I then need to say when someone leaves, what was the node that I created for this person. And in order to do that, I'm going to create a object in memory that says, basically it's a mapping of player IDs to the text nodes. This dot player name map, it's an object. And so then I'm going to say instead of player text node, I'm going to say player name map at player.id is a new text node. Some formatting here. Okay, so now I kind of have the ability to keep track of this thing. So one other thing I'll need to do is the Y here. Make sure that the height is correctly calculated. But again, don't really care about that right now. I just want to basically be able to remove when they leave. So, oh, I forgot to update the reference over here. This dot player name map at player.id. So, right, because I no longer have a variable I'm assigning this thing to now, I'm just putting it directly into this object where the key is the player's ID. And so that's what I'm adding here, is the actual node there instead of the variable I was assigning before. So now when someone leaves, I just need to say this dot player list section dot remove child, this dot player name map at player ID. And so what remove child takes as a parameter is not the actual node itself, but the ID of the node. So every node that I'm adding automatically gets an ID created by the Home Games kind of engine. So dot node dot ID, I think is what that is. And what I'm realizing now is that what I essentially have, or what I need, is a render function for this player list. So instead of doing this right when someone joins or right when someone leaves and directly manipulating the object, like the kind of memory of who's in my game and what I've done for them, I really want to separate the rendering of the player list from this this logic of new and leaving players. So what I want to do is I'm just trying to think, should I keep this stuff in memory and kind of create a new game node every single time it's rendered, or should I keep the actual game nodes themselves there? Whatever, I'm just going to keep this stuff in memory and then create new game nodes. I'm not really concerned about efficiency at this point. So player name map at player ID. Wait a second. This is silly what I'm doing. I'm just going to create render player list, and I'm just going to call it every time handle new player or handle player disconnect, and then I can iterate through players and just render their names. So dot render player list. So I essentially just need to iterate through this dot players every single time in render player list, and that'll be that. I don't need to do this whole removal of children and remembering that kind of stuff. So for const player ID, and so this dot players is kind of a magic given to you by Home Games, and it's automatically handled by the network stuff. When someone joins and someone leaves, you just get players in your players object. I'm just gonna log the player ID and see if this is correct. And again, my hot loader will eat standard out. So game server, yep, and my player ID is 1, so that makes sense. That's all good. Const, I already have this copied. So now I can basically do what I was doing before and say clear children. I don't care that this is inefficient, that I'm kind of clearing out and re-rendering text every single time. This dot player name map dot clear children. So we're gonna wipe out the children of this entire red box every time a player leaves or joins, and then I'm just gonna re-render the text of every player that's currently in my game, along with their score. And we'll get to score later, probably in the second video, because I feel like this one's already long. I actually have no idea how much time has passed. So yeah, we'll get to that. But now we can do the kind of Y positioning stuff as a variable instead of just hard-coded to 20. So let's just say Y index is equal to 20. And we're going to make this Y index. So the player is this dot players at player ID. And then I have player dot name here as the text still. The Y index will be this 20, and just kind of iterating through the player list. So after this iteration, formatting is confusing me. So let me redo that. Stop player list section dot add child, and then I'm gonna increment the Y index by, I don't know, 10, and see if that works. So, ooh, clear children is not a function, and that's because I did it on the kind of wrapper node and not the node itself. This is a silly way that we've structured this stuff. I think this having dot node on everything is not really great. We talked about that on the podcast as well, I think, about it being kind of silly to need to do that. What the hell? Clear children of undefined. Oh, what a goof. I had the wrong variable name. Okay, so now I have my player 1, and the real test is when I add my second player. No, that didn't work. It just rendered right over it. So, oh, what an idiot. So it's because I put my increment outside of the loop. Full disclosure, my sweet tea is a little extra sweet, if you know what I mean. So I might be missing some things here. So freeze pelt is my player 1. This other person is my player 2. And there must be a bug in the home game's logic, because it keeps thinking that players aren't leaving. So this dot players is the object managed by the home game stuff, which is what I'm pulling this list from. When I refresh, I'm actually disconnecting and reconnecting, meaning I'm removing a player and then immediately adding another player. So this shouldn't be happening. I'm going to cut this video right here, figure out why that's happening, and I'll see you in the second one where we go through the actual kind of game part of this.